Okay, let's do this. Welcome, welcome. I'm just checking here. Let's make sure we are going live. Let's make sure that everything is going well, and super well. Gonna wait to see if somebody comes on here and confirms that you can hear me, that you can see me. Okay, I'll confirm myself. Okay, so what we are doing, by the way, welcome whenever you come, and if you're watching after the fact, English Mastery Lab members, you get this after the fact anytime you want. But welcome, and if I share this with you after the fact, welcome, and thank you for joining me. Thank you for coming on. Whenever you're coming on, stop by, say hello, let me know that you're there, let me know that you're here, and then we will get started, because today we have a lot of good stuff going on. What we're doing today is we are going to be looking at specifically what's holding you back. Why are you not fluent yet? Despite studying for years, despite, here, let me share this. Here it is directly. Okay, so there we go. I shared it in my group. I shared it in, let's see, my LinkedIn group. And here's what we are going to do. By the way, hi, welcome. What's up? I think that's Roberto. Waiting for Zora, Danielle. I know they're going to show up. They're going to come. But we're going to look at what specifically is holding you back. What specifically is keeping you from fluency, right? Join me live. Here we go. Okay, shared in all the groups. That should give you guys time to come in, and then if you watch after the fact, you can just pass through all of this and get right to the goods. But here's what we're going to do. I'm going to share with you, and Roberto, I know you know this, but it's always good to refresh. It's always good to learn this again and again and again, because repetition builds permanence, right? Practice does not make perfect. Practice makes permanent, right? Practice makes permanent. We need perfect practice to make perfect, right? So, but today it all comes down to you, right? But first, I have an announcement. Next week, we're going to have a special time again. I'm going to be doing another live masterclass, and this one will be on confidence, building your confidence, how to present, whether you're going into a job interview, whether you're giving a sales presentation, whether you're talking to a client, how to build that confidence to do it in English at the same level or at a higher level than you do in your own language. We're going to talk about that next week. But today, let's just talk about the basics. What is keeping you at your level? Now, Roberto, you can answer this because you have actually risen your level since starting focused study. You know, we're super proud of you, and thank you for doing that. Thank you for your effort. And by the way, confirm in the comments, it's not that much effort, right? You can get tremendous results without spending hours studying, without going through grammar books, without preparing for exams, without setting hours aside to improve your English, right? You just need a little bit of time each day with focused practice. And that's what we're going to talk about today, right? Focused practice. So let me pull my whiteboard up and let's talk about, well, really how traditional classes go, right? Let me move this over and let's start, you know, traditional English classes, right? Traditional English classes teach conversation, they teach grammar, they prepare for exams, they teach English, right? This is traditional classes. This is kind of what it looks like, right? And this is cool. This will get, you know, some results, right? Let me share this. Like the traditional kind of studying, it's been working for years, right? It's what you do. You study grammar. You know, typically what it looks like is kind of you study a language, you know, a language form, right? Grammar, how to write an email, you know, a certain set of vocabulary, phrasal verbs. You start with the language, and then you kind of do like practice the language, right? Then you practice your setup, and then your teacher, if they're good, they might say like, okay, now get with a partner and use the language and describe this photograph, right? And then maybe you're asked to perform in some sort of project or in some sort of situation, right? It's like you learn the language and then you practice the language and then perform the language, right? You study the language and then you have like some exercises, you know, right? This structure. Not only A, but also B, right? So let's start here. Not only A, we'll do a little example, but also B. Okay, you might learn this in traditional classes. Do something like this. And then you learn that structure. And then somebody might say, you know, what's an example? Tell me an example of that. And you say, good idea, good question. Here's an example, right? And then you say, you know, improving your English not only helps your communication, but also increases your confidence, right? So this is kind of what I'm getting at with like the language, and then so you study the language, and then do some sort of practice, and then your teacher might say, you know, now get with a partner and have a dialogue. You know, if any teachers are watching, I know it's, you know, a little more in depth than this, but be honest with yourselves, not that much, right? Of course, it's extended over 20 minutes or whatever, but this is the general process. And that's good. But, but you're starting with the language, and then you're going down to practice it. And the problem is then when you leave the classroom, you kind of forget everything. You're given the tools. Like, these are the tools. If you have in mind tools, they're giving you the tools, the hammer, the wrench, the pliers, but you're not taught how to use them, right? You're starting with the language, and that's what's so different. Let me clear this. That's what's so different about what I do, because I don't really start with the language. The ego method doesn't start with the language, and I think that's where the breakdown really happens. Start with you. That goes a lot farther. Start with you. And what you want, right? And here's the problem. Not many people know what they want. Not many people know what they want. And you might be saying, I want to be fluent. To which I would say to you, exactly my point. Like, I want to be fluent is not a goal, right? I want to be fluent is not a goal. I want to be able to smash this job interview and answer all of the questions naturally and comfortably. That, by the way, Roberto, how did your job interview go? You see, this is what we're talking about. Start with, and I hope you're taking notes here, right? Start with a specific goal. This is the breakdown of most English classes. They start with the English and teach that, and then try to fit that language into your brain so you can use it usually on an exam, which, if you followed me for any number of classes, you know how much I hate English exams. You know, I hate them as a standard. I don't like preparing for them. You know, if there's anything that I like about preparing for exams, it does give a specific goal. It does give a specific target. What's up, Zora? It does give a specific target, right? I have an exam on July 15th, and I need this score. That's about the best thing that I can say about English exams, right? They are fake. They are contrived, forced language situations that are not realistic or based in reality. That's how I feel about English exams, right? You don't start with the exam. You don't start with the language. You start with your goal, right? So let's take a look at here, right? You start with your goal. And let's use this because the goal is your result, right? What do you want to be able to do? I talked about this in last week's masterclass, right? What do you want to be able to do? Not, I want to be fluent. I want to speak like a native speaker. No. What do you want to be able to do? What does it mean to speak like a native speaker, right? I want to tell engaging stories. I want to be able to have a conversation without being nervous. I want to be able to explain what I do without fighting with the language. You know, something like that, something a little more specific, right? I want to be able to sell to clients in English. I want to be able to serve clients in English. You know, these are results. And then you start there and then you work backwards, right? But you're here. You know, I want to be able to draw with my trackpad, for example. Then I'd practice, you know. But then you see your result. You see your result as you've already done it, right? And then you go back and say, how did I do it? I want to be able to tell stories. Okay, so then you listen to language that tells stories and is able to use metaphors. That's why I chose today's video, by the way, the use of metaphors and the use of creative language and storytelling, right? So whatever you want, have your eyes on that first and then work backwards and think of how did this happen, right? What did I learn to be able to do this, right? You want to prepare for job interviews. Well, research the industry you want a job interview for. Research the company. You want to be able to talk to that company about the position you're going for, right? What will you have to be able to do? What did people do before you? How long has this company been in business? Who do they serve? What do they do, right? These are all questions to ask yourself. So then the focus isn't on the English. Oh, did I use past perfect or present perfect or past simple, right? Did I make a mistake? Did I make a grammar mistake? Who cares? I get on fire when I talk about this stuff because really, who cares if you made a mistake if you know what you're talking about? You know, if you've watched my lives at all ever, you know it's full of mistakes. Full of mistakes. You know, I make mistakes. You make mistakes. We don't speak absolutely perfectly. And if we did, it'd probably be weird because then we'd sound like a robot saying things like, to whom it may concern, you know, whatever. Anyway, that's what I wanted to share today. Start with your goal. Don't start with the language. And starting with the language, that's one of the reasons why you don't feel as good as you feel that you should when speaking English, because you are already you're already setting yourself up for failure because you're looking for mistakes. You're looking for errors. You're constantly focused on your mistakes. And if you're focused on your mistakes, then you're gonna find them. You know, if you're focused on your mistakes, you're gonna find them. And that's just it. That's actually a really good that's a really good expression by me. You should you know, write that down. If you're focused on your mistakes, you're gonna find them. Okay, let's get on to, by the way, how's the connection, guys? Is it okay? I forgot to change to my other internet. I hope it's okay. But here, let's do this. I have something special for you. We're not gonna choose right now live what we're gonna search for because we don't really need to search for pronunciation in this one. Because if you don't know this guy is Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street. And if you have never seen the movie by Leonardo DiCaprio, I highly recommend that film because it's awesome. It's incredible. It's one of these movies that was over 2.5 hours long. And the first time I watched it, I couldn't believe that it was almost over. You know, it just has you grabbed. You know, it grabs your attention, right? So, but he is the real life, the Wolf of Wall Street, who Leonardo DiCaprio's character was based on, right? So this interview is really cool because this is Jordan Belfort's interview with the FBI detective who was in charge of catching him and putting him in jail. Right? They're having a conversation. They have a good relationship now. They're both, you know, that Jordan, he understood that what he did was wrong. The FBI agent was doing his job, and it's 20 years later or whatever, right? So this is a really interesting conversation because of the topic, but also the way they speak in this segment. They use a lot of metaphors. It's great for storytelling, right? They use metaphors, they use analogies, and it's just a great tool to use for storytelling. And that's why I chose it today. We're going to look for some expressions, and that's what we're hunting for today: expressions and vocabulary. So let's take this off. Let me change my mic. Testing. Let me turn off my fan. Can you hear me still? Okay. If I play this, can you hear it?
Back in 40 days without a restriction versus back then it was 2 years. I think it's now a year, right? It was this huge, ridiculous loophole. It didn't make a lot. It was supposed to encourage investment in the U.S., but it was being abused badly, right?
Correct.
Can you? That's the agent. Can you hear everything now? Is the connection good? Can you hear that? You can hear everything? Good. Okay. So here's what we're doing. They speak quickly, especially Jordan Belfort. They speak really quickly. And they have kind of, New York accents. So that's why we're not looking for pronunciation. We're not, trying to shadow in this one because they have such thick accents. So what we're doing, we're listening to how they use the language. And that's what we're listening for. That's what we're hunting for. Does that make sense? So let's get started.
I fucking knew this was that's what the drug. This is the drugs that they really destroyed me because as I was doing, this is the stupidest shit. I almost was, I don't know why I was compelled. I felt to do stupid shit at some point because I knew it would be my unwinding, this whole regulation, that shit. And I did it because you're right. I guess I wasn't getting, security was so like, I get it. It was like harder to prove, more subjective. I guess you had to get everyone to admit it under oath, right? The rat holes, the flippers, the whole thing. And even then, were they really interested in that case or not?
Well,
so much?
it gets a regular security.
Okay, so I should have given you warning that there's some swearing in here, but if you've taken class with me, you know that I swear anyway. So, but the point is that I'm going to actually do a video on this soon about how understanding swearing is important actually in business English and regular English. And about how swear words are not necessarily always bad, right? So we're going to go back and listen to a little bit of that and we're going to unpack it.
At some point because I knew it would be, I don't know why as I was doing, this is the stupid.
As I was doing something, I fucking knew, right? I fucking knew. As I was doing something, I fucking knew. By the way, fucking here doesn't really mean anything. It's just like for emphasis, right?
Stupid as shit. I almost was in the U.S., but it was being abused badly, right?
Correct.
I fucking knew this was that's what the drug. This is the drugs that they really destroyed me because as I was doing, this is the stupidest shit.
All of this emphasis. This is the stupidest shit. It's all emphasis, right?
I almost was.
By the way, shit here means things, right? The stupidest things. But if you want it to be stronger, and this is why, I try to not to curse, swear, or say bad words too much, because that way, when you use them, it adds more emphasis, right? And that's what you can tell the passion in his voice, right?
I don't know why I was compelled. I felt to do stupid shit at some point because I knew it would be my unwinding, this whole regulation, that shit. And I did it because you're right. I guess
I knew it would be my unwinding. I knew it would be my unwinding. I knew it would be my unwinding. And then we will take a look at these later, right? I knew, and by the way, unwinding means like, you know, the way it unravels, the way that it opens, the way that he gets destroyed, essentially.
I wasn't getting its security was so like I get it. It was like harder to prove, more subjective. I guess you had to get everyone to admit it under oath, right? The rat holes, the flippers, the whole thing. And even then, were they
Don't
really
worry
interested
about
in
that.
that case or not?
Well,
so much?
it gets a regular securities case, a manipulation case gets kind of complicated, right? And not only that, but remember, you diversified at some point, and you set up, built more securities, or even if you didn't set them up, but they're connected with you, they're dealing with you, right? It's part of the conspiracy now. Now, if we have the dominance and control of one firm, but now it's diversified among 3 firms. You got
I did a good job with that stuff.
Yeah, you did very good job with that. And then again, the loyalty became very difficult to finally crack through and get brokers. I mean, So
here we go. So they're using a lot of technical terms here, right? With loyalty and diversify, a lot of like businessy terms. If you're into business, then you probably don't have much problem understanding that. If you're not in business, then it almost doesn't matter. So let's skip by that part and get to the storytelling.
My theory was this, okay? I operated when I was an agent under what I call the suit of armor theory.
Here we go. So the suit of armor theory. The suit of armor. So if we have the suit of armor, if you have like the old-fashioned knights, right, with the steel helmet and then the sword and then the suit of armor that is metal, right, to go into battle in the Middle Ages, right? The suit of armor theory, the suit of armor theory. And this is how he's describing himself, which is he's describing himself in his own work here, right? And it's using metaphors, it's using pictures, it's using illustrations.
All of your henchmen thought you were in a suit of armor, all right? But what you guys didn't realize was I'm a stereotypical government parasite, okay? And all I needed to do.
So he's saying in the suit of armor theory, right? If you get this picture, right? Jordan is in a suit of armor. His armor, his protection was his people. And he's like, but I'm a typical government parasite. Typically, parasites are negative, right? So it's negative from Jordan's perspective. You see what I mean? So it's this beautiful word picture. If you enjoy telling stories, using these types of word pictures and metaphors is beautiful because it keeps the audience engaged, right? So let's listen to that again. Now, you see, like, that's genuine laughter, and he's talking about himself. He's just talking about him and catching him, right? And he's calling himself a parasite to capture the suit of armor, the person behind the suit of armor.
Operated when I was an agent. I mean, my theory was this, okay? I operated when I was an agent under what I call the suit of armor theory. You and all of your henchmen thought you were in a suit of armor, all right? Well, what you guys didn't realize was I'm a stereotypical government parasite, okay? And all I needed to do was get into your suit of armor somehow, find any crack.
Like Ant-Man.
Right? Yeah, find any crack. And once I'm in there, I infect you and you die. And the analogy I'm making is,
if I get in there, I infect you and you die, right? And not literally, of course, right? And I don't need to explain metaphors. I think in every language there are metaphors, and like die doesn't necessarily mean die. But I want to highlight how it's used, right? I want to highlight what he's saying, because when you're on your language hunt, remember the Eagle method, the base of the Eagle method is to go on language hunts, know what you're looking for, and then find it, right? Essentially, know what you're looking for and then find it. And that's the basis for the Eagle method. And that's what we're doing. And so, of course, I don't need to tell you it didn't mean like a for real parasite and a literal die, but on your hunt, you pick these things out so you can write them in your notes so you can use them.
Somehow find any crack. Okay. And all I needed to do was get into your suit of armor somehow, find any crack.
Like Ant-Man.
Right? Yeah, find any crack. And once I'm in there,
Subatomic.
I infect you and you die. And the analogy I'm making is, okay, if I can't get you for securities fraud, get him for test taking, get him for anything else, just get him charged. Get him in,
Right?
get him into the system.
The testing. So there's shit going on in Stratton I knew nothing about, even like down at lower levels, right? There was the hookers in the basement. I knew nothing about that. That was I forgot who, some mob guy who just kid worked there, right? There was the test taking fiasco where people were having people pay to have that, right? This is all stuff I didn't.
By the way, hookers in the basement, that sounds literal. Like hookers are prostitutes in the basement, the bottom floor. That sounds literal. Test taking, I don't know what that's referring to, but there are different things, right? So if you don't understand what that means, pass by, right? And remember, you're focused on your hunt. This is the eagle method.
It got so big, it was unwieldy. Yeah. Also, here's another. All right, let's go back a couple.
Let me go back to what I guess, because I think you're.
Let's go back. Yeah, that's a terrific, expression. Let's go back, and then he said, "Let me go back. Let's go back to the, whatever story, or let me go back." Right? That's a language. See, any of these little language tools, and we can call them language tools. This is what I would call a conversation builder. Let's go back to whatever.
All right, let's go back a couple.
Let me go back to what I guess, because I think your listeners will find this interesting. Look, Reg S was designed to lure in foreign investments into small U.S. companies with a minimum of regulation. Right. But literally in the statutes, it says it cannot be issued to a U.S. person or for the benefit of a U.S. person, right? And one of the other caveats was it had to stay outside of the country for 40 days. So literally what all the Reg S guys were doing, I mean, UH did a little bit longer, 41 days, 42 days, or they would short it and then cover by bringing it in, right? So Reg S was very big at that time. I mean, you weren't...
Reg S, I don't know what that sounds like. It's a term, an inside term from back there, or a specific code name or something. I mean, an organization name.
Only got and I love Reg S cases because they were easy cases.
Type of case.
All I needed to do was find out exactly who was behind the shell company, which I do through my treaty requests, right? And then it's over. Then everything. Now what's interesting is.
There we go. Now what's interesting is that might be something to take, right?
The mere issue requests, right? And then it's over. Then everything. Now what's interesting is.
Now it sounds like he's going to go on to the point of the story, and that might be something you'd want to hunt to say something important in your story. Now, what's interesting is blah, blah, blah. Right? Does this make sense?
Issuance of the right? And then it's over. Then everything. Now, what's interesting is the mere issuance of the stock is the securities fraud. That's what we call in the business the specified unlawful activity, which will lead to the money laundering, right? That's a technical term. In the money laundering statute, there's a whole list of crimes, right? And securities fraud actually comes in through the RICO statute, okay? It says fraud in the sale of securities is a predicate for RICO. All of the RICO predicates are what we call SUAs for money laundering. So that's how we got you there. So the mere issuance of the stock is the initial crime. And then what I said to Joel was, look, Joel, this is the initial crime. We charge that as securities fraud. Every single dollar that we link to the issuance of that stock, every single dollar is money laundering. Now, remember at the time.
Which is a disaster because it's a huge 20 years.
So,
because it was, now.
I mean, now he's getting into some specifics of the history, right? So we don't have to go on to that. I'll put in if you're an English Masquerade Lab member, you have a list of archived lessons, right? So I always put the original video in with the lesson. So let's go on. I'll show you the language that I hunted and how you can take your notes, right? So as I was you know, and then this, this would be grammar, right? As I was doing this, right, at the same time, as I was studying, I was also listening to music, you know, whatever, two actions at the same time. And then we already took, I fucking knew this just gives emphasis, right? I always did stupid things, but you want more emphasis, or sometimes, you know, a dialect swears more than another dialect, right? In New York, they talk a little harsher, they talk a little brasher, stupid shit. And I knew it would be my unwinding. My unwinding is kind of like my downfall. Does that make sense? So the suit of armor theory, we talked about that. Put that in your notes. Let's go back to the whatever. Let me go back. This is what I would call a conversation builder or storytelling tool, you know? And now what's interesting is this is I guess like a story builder, right? Or a conversation builder. These types of things are fantastic to hunt. These types of things are fantastic to hunt because they are little things that you can add into your story that really brings it to life, right? That really makes it a lot more fluent, right? That really makes it your story sound natural, right? Does that make sense? So, yeah, that's what I wanted to share with you today. That's what I wanted to share with you. Storytelling. Storytelling, it's a very powerful tool with language. And then as you practice it, you want to practice it in shadow along with the video, right? You want to practice in shadow with your time, with your English time, right? So that's all I wanted to share with you today. Thank you guys for joining me. Thank you for being with me, being here with me. Let me know in the English Speaking Mastery group or our Telegram group, you know, any takeaways, any questions you have. And I thank you for being here with me. Next week, special time, 2 o'clock, masterclass on confidence in giving presentations. And that will be here in my English Speaking Mastery group. And for me, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.